Fight Club. Today, we are joined, of course, by Rob Stone, faithful co-host. How are you, Rob? Say hello to the people.
Super excited for the waves of the people.
Blow them kisses. All right. And today, we've got Matt Tietgen. Welcome. Thanks for being here. We're excited to chat with you on a lot of different topics, but yeah. I don't know. Do you keep some? You keep your mastics now, right?
Yeah, got into your mastics about a year ago.
Yeah. Yep. How's that project going for you?
Good. I only have one adult pair or two adult pairs, so I'm not breeding too much. I do have eggs from Moroccans that I got.
Oh, cool.
I'm hoping they're fertile, but they're not looking too promising at the moment. And then going to be trying Yemenensis this year too, which is exciting. They're probably the rarest in the U.S. right now.
Yeah, nice. That's cool. And you still work with a lot of monitors and geckos as well, or you?
No monitors at the moment. I need to get those back in, but mostly Nephrus and a pair of Saltawaris salabrosis. I hatched my first baby of those in December.
Oh, cool.
That's doing great.
Yeah. How big are your adults?
Oh,
they're pretty good size.
10 inches or so. They're huge. Yeah.
They're an impressive gecko. I still remember.
Cool gecko, yeah.
Yeah, I saw one in Rob Porter's collection over in Queensland, and I'm like, wow, that's a big gecko.
Yeah, they're big.
They're pretty impressive. Yeah, I'd seen Cornutus in the wild, up in Cairns area. Those are pretty amazing geckos. But yeah, I like the leaf tails. I've got a pair of Amnicola, the riverine leaf tails.
Nice.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. Yeah, fun stuff. There's a lot of cool, too many cool reptiles. I always say that, but yeah, I guess you are working with some monitors still at the zoo. You've accomplished a pretty impressive feat there.
I work with my favorite animals, the Parentes.
Yeah. Hey, we share a favorite animal. You can love Parentes. They're so cool. That's awesome.
Me too.
How are the babies? You got how many babies you hatch out?
Hatched 8. Yep.
Man,
so
that's cool.
Bunch of 9. One died partly through incubation, and the rest made it. So
that's awesome.
Yep.
They're all still kicking.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just looking for other institutions to take them.
Yeah, that's the only downside, I guess, is when you produce them, you got to find an outlet for them. How many do you have on exhibit at the zoo?
Just one baby now. We had 2, but they got too big for that exhibit. So now we only have one baby, and then the male is on display
Big
too.
Boy. Old tripod.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So I visited the zoo. What was that? Maybe 2018, 2019, just before the pandemic hit. The year before.
Yep.
COVID.
We haven't had him long either.
Yeah.
Did he still have his foot when you saw him? Wow.
No, he had
Then it was probably 2019.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds right. my sense of time is not great.
I don't have good time either.
I kind of base everything off my last trip to Australia, so or trips to Australia. So I went in 2016. So it was somewhere between 2016 and 2023. But yeah, that was really cool. So Matt showed us around the zoo, Henry Dorley Zoo, and that's in Omaha. Yeah. Yep. Nebraska. One of I think it's probably my favorite zoo in the country. I really like
it. It's a good one.
Yeah. The Desert Dome is like my dream. That's the coolest display ever. So yeah, what's your role at the zoo?
I'm the lead keeper of reptiles. So
okay.
I'm a reptile keeper of everything in the dome, including the kingdoms of the night.
Nice. That's very cool.
The other reptiles around the zoo are taken care of by the keepers of those buildings, but we'll quarantine them and then send them off to those other buildings. So
very cool.
We're kind of the go-to reptile keepers, but
yeah. That's awesome. You guys have a great collection too. Really, you kind of cover different deserts, right? The Desert Dome is how many? 4 different regions?
3
different regions. So you've got
Namib in Africa, and it's supposed to be the Red Center of Australia, but We kind of fudged that a little bit. And then Sonora. So.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. Really, really cool displays. Everything's some things are just walking freely among the people.
It's a fully immersive building. Yeah. Yep. So we have a giant sand dune is what you walk into, because the MIB is where you walk in, and the MIB has the largest, sand dunes in the world. So you got to showcase that. Then you have a massive mountain to your left. You walk a rock trail through a canyon, and then you go into the reptile caves where most of our Namib and Australia exhibits are. And then you walk out to a fake Uluru and Wave Rock, then into Sonora. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, incredible building. 13-story geodesic dome. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty cool. You took us up on top of the rocks too. There were some off exhibit animals up there. And
yep. So that huge mountain is actually a 3-story building, which we have holding in. So it's hiding a 3-story building.
It's so cool.
Pretty cool.
Seriously, the stuff dreams are made of for any reptile enthusiast, for sure. Now, so why are you guys fudging? Why there's so many cool animals from the Red Center? You've got some frilled lizards, I guess. Yeah. Well,
get that many.
You can't get them.
You gotta get what you can get,
Yeah, so, that's true. It is a pain to bring anything out of
Australia. Find anything from the Red Center in the U.S. Yeah.
Even if you're a zoo, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I know. That can be a big headache for sure.
Yeah,
not just on our end, but trying to find somebody on the other end to deal with the headaches is probably the hardest part.
It is.
But sometimes they'll be eager to trade for things like rattlesnakes and stuff like that. So
I think there's a couple of zoos that have import exports for Australia, but the cost of that, and then there's few and far between when we actually make those trades and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. And you've done a few trips over there too. It's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, I did WA in 2019, and then just got back from the Northern Territory just in November. Yeah. That's Thanksgiving. I guess I came back.
Did a couple Justin trips.
Yep.
Rob and I kind of have different views on setting up a trip. I like to cover as much ground as possible, and Rob focuses a little bit better.
Yeah, we did the entire Northern Territory, north to south, basically. So Darwin all the way to Uluru.
That's cool.
So how many years worth of PTO did you use? That's my question.
We do they probably give us too much PTO, but it was a 3-week trip. We're pretty well off on PTO. I think we're pretty lucky. Cool. And then I have an awesome crew willing to take my place when I'm gone. So take care of my animals and everything. I do feel bad though, but I don't take a lot of days off besides that. So in another 3 years, I'll do it again.
Where's your next trip, do you think?
I think we're thinking South Australia.
Okay.
Because Sierra wants to dive with sharks. We have to do that and then go home. Uh-oh.
We just
apparently Siri thinks I was talking to her.
We just did whale sharks down in Baja. That was pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, it was a great experience. That was on my bucket list for a long time, but very fun. Is that like great whites and stuff down in South Australia?
Yeah, so it'll be a cage dive with great whites.
Oh, nice.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it would. Yep. As long as they don't jump in the cage with you or something.
Yeah.
They're impressive animals. Did you see that giant one that they found recently?
No.
Big Blue or whatever. She's this huge. I think she's the longest recorded or filmed great white in the wild.
That's cool.
I think size of a school bus or something. Twice as heavy, and she was pregnant or gravid. So pretty amazing. I
saw they just got the first footage ever of a newborn great white.
Yeah,
drone footage. That's pretty cool.
Interesting. Yeah, the article that guy wrote. Yeah, pretty crazy. It's amazing how much we don't know, especially when it comes to the ocean.
The ocean, we don't know anything about it.
Yeah,
other than we're killing it.
Yeah, true.
You know that.
Overfishing it.
Yeah,
it's crazy. And just, seeing the whale sharks and the humpback whales, and just thinking how much krill that takes to feed those things, and it's insane, like just crazy. Yeah, cool stuff. What else are you looking to see in South Australia? You have any big targets down there?
No huge targets that I can think of. But Dell and I would be cool.
Yeah.
Go over there maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't thought about it yet. She just said she wants to do that for great whites, and then I'll figure that out. I've got a couple of years.
That's true. Yeah, that's ample time to plan a trip.
Yeah.
Right? Let me know. I can maybe share some notes with you. I had a pretty fun trip down there, despite not seeing my 3 main targets, but we got some cool stuff otherwise. But really cool spot, really neat place to be. So, and I probably wasn't over there at the best time of year, but you got to give it a shot if you're over there.
Yeah, Womos will be up there. Haven't seen a Woma yet.
Yeah.
Need to see one of those.
We went and looked up in one spot. It looked like be good habitat.
I think you have to drive a little bit north still.
But... Yeah. It was a bit of a drive. We were worried we weren't going to.
Maybe we'll drive back to Uluru.
Yeah, that would be a little bit more of a drive. We were thinking about that. Like, should we just go up to Alice Springs?
It's right there.
It's going to be a little warmer up there too. But it is a long way from where we were. But cool. Too many cool places over there for sure.
It's too big. Too many things to see.
Yep. Oh, I'm waiting on eggs. I haven't gotten any eggs this year yet, other than some crested geckos in my office that won't stop laying eggs. They're just very prolific. I don't know how somebody does those full time and just sells crested geckos. It's crazy, but they're fun. But yeah, I stopped collecting eggs for a little while, but I've got some really nice red ones, so I picked up a few of their eggs the other week. Just I'm like, they're there, so I might as well grab them. But they're fun little geckos for sure. And then waiting on eggs from blackheads, womas, some carpets. Looks like one of the inlands is going to lay soon. Could be a decent year. So
nice.
Yeah, fun stuff. But, so I guess let's maybe have you talk a little bit more about your role in herpetoculture and where you fit in and kind of where you came from, where you're headed.
So I'm a zookeeper, been a reptile keeper for 15 years now. So started in Omaha.
Did you start at Henry Dorley? Oh, okay.
Yep, started in Omaha. Then I went to Phoenix for a few years and I came back. Okay. So Phoenix is where I met Steve and friends. So
yeah, that's cool. And then he followed you to Omaha, right?
Yep. Followed me to Omaha.
Yeah.
Little love story.
He bailed on you there.
And then he left me again. But yeah.
Steve's a cool guy. He'd be fun to work with for sure.
Yeah, he was. He's fun. But other than that, I started keeping reptiles seriously probably in 2009 after I became a zookeeper. But when I was a kid, I kept a leopard gecko and a bearded dragon. After watching one episode of Steve Irwin, Croc Hunter, I got a leopard gecko. And then immediately started running around my town catching garter snakes and everything. So it was a huge inspiration in getting me into this.
Yeah.
But then after I started keeping or became a zookeeper, I got into breeding stuff. Started with blue tongues, the Eringia and northern blue tongues, bred those. And I got into blood pythons and bred those for a couple years. And then I got some monitor lizards. I did Ackies and Gilleni and Tristis.
That's cool.
And then I sold most everything when I went to Phoenix, just for money and space. I kept Nephris and Gilleni though when I moved. So I did those for a few more years. And now, Nephris has been a staple for many years, over 10 years. Now I'm getting into your mastics too. So see where that goes.
Yeah.
But I need more monitors in my life though. I'm missing them at home, even though I get a fill at work, but they're my favorite. So
Yeah, it's hard to beat a monitor. They're just so cool. Although they do take a lot more energy and attention than a lot of stuff. Yeah, they're high octane pets.
Yeah, I'm working on an enclosure now, hoping to get some Pilparensis maybe this year.
Yeah, those are probably my second favorite monitor. They're so cool.
They're awesome.
Rob differs a little bit in that
what
viewpoint.
They just hide. At least, I mean, maybe if you have a very expressive male, that'll be great. But Glauerdi dominate Pilparensis every day, and twice on Sunday. So, I mean, Glauerdi are essentially, at least, so the only Parentes I've seen beyond the one that the one I saw up at Terry's place, the only ones that I've seen was over at Scott and Ty's on the last trip to Australia. They had a whole handful that are probably 4 foot or so. And my instant reaction was, wow, that's just a really overgrown Glauerdi. That'll definitely take a finger, no doubt about that. So, Pilparensis, I don't know. That just was my experience with 6 or 7 of them. They were very reclusive and wouldn't kind of put themselves out there. And as opposed to a Glauerdi that'll sit like it's sitting in a recliner and just say, hey, what's up, dude? I don't know. From a personality standpoint, I found Glauerdi to be the superior monitor lizard. So
I don't know. Chasing them around in Western Australia, they were pretty bold. They were out there. I sat and followed one for a good long while.
Well, maybe all the U.S. captive Pilparensis aren't really, right? They're these weird mutants from off the highway or whatever, and which you would think the bold ones would be the ones more likely to get caught, but
right?
I don't know.
But they were fun. Did you see any while you were over there, Matt?
Hammersliensis.
Okay. Yep. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, we got both the Hammersliensis and the Pilparensis, and they were both really cool. Yeah, the Hammersliensis just sat there and entertained me for a good hour or so, and just walking around, sat and basked right out in the open, and yeah, they're really fun. We saw a few of those on 2 separate trips, and then a handful of Pilparensis. Although when I was with Steve on the second trip, we only saw one, and I was clear up on the hillside when I saw it, and so Steve and Mike didn't get to see it, but they did get to see the Hammersliensis up close pretty well. They sat and behaved for us. So
I'd love to see them. I mean, don't get me wrong, we'll have to integrate that into a trip to go see them, but just as a captive animal.
Yeah,
I would. Hopefully, we'll see Glauerdi. In Kakadu. That'd be cool. See the NT Glauerdi.
Big goal for me. And after Rob and these guys leave, I'm going to head over to Western Australia and go over to Lake Argyle, that area, and try to find a Glauerdi over in that spot too. So we'll see if I can get lucky. See both types. I imagine they're probably different species. The 2
I think
Glauerdi
probably
types.
So.
Kakadu type is crazy.
Yeah. They're more tree dwelling, whereas the Western Australian ones are more Saxicolous, and I don't know, lots of work to do, I think, in the monitors. I'm not really happy about them sinking Barichi and doing all that stuff. That group, man, they just rub me the wrong way. They're doing all sorts of weird stuff with taxonomy. So hopefully somebody comes along that knows things a little better or knows these things out in the wild and can change that back, or I don't know, do it a little more.
Or as ever, as you know, right? I mean, taxonomy, talk about something where you make a case and I can buy it or not,
Sure.
and I understand the whole world can move on, but that doesn't mean that I have to accept that. And papers that are properly written will explicitly say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rhynchophis for life. It's, we can disagree. Mm-hmm. They're not Ganyosoma. They're just not. The paper says, that you could choose A, B, or C. You've chosen A, and I've chosen C, and that's we can all learn to be okay with that. We don't have to be pedants who just insist, no, this person somewhere said this, and this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
Well, it seems like most people adopt it once it's, in a paper.
I think just because they find it easy, though, not because it's actually compelling. Maybe they haven't even read the paper. Because if they did read the paper, they would acknowledge that the paper says, oh, it could be A, B, or C. And our approach, our sort of politic that we're bringing to this is to choose option A. So it fundamentally says that. So I would just say that most people that are strongly, vehemently presenting, oh, no, it has to be this because the paper said, did you actually read the paper? Did you understand what the paper said? I'm going to guess the answer to either one or both is no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ready to go tonight.
Yeah. Rob's coming in hot. Yeah. Yeah. It's, I mean, it can be a challenging thing. I get frustrated because it seems to have no rhyme or reason. And sometimes, you can take it however you want, it seems, and just say, I think this should be this way and make it so. Here's enough, supporting data to do it. So I don't know. You can sink a, whole subspecies and species into another.
And create some more.
Simpsoni,
which really doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And then you can add a subspecies and create a new species just from a couple specimens out of New Guinea. I just think it's crazy, but that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. The beauty of science, the beauty of taxonomy, I guess. Well, do you find it kind of challenging to keep privately as well as work at the zoo? Do you get additional scrutiny being a keeper as well as a private keeper?
I don't think so.
No.
A lot. It's more work. I mean, you're literally bringing your work home with you.
Yeah.
but
right.
But yeah, I think I've trimmed down my collection a lot because of that. But I also wake up early, so I get most of my husbandry done at home before I go to work. So that way, when I get home from exhausting work, I can just relax. So that makes it easier on me.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. That's any plans for any more cool species, or you looking at new projects, or are you kind of happy with what you have?
Yeah, just the Pilbarensis. And then for some reason this past 2 weeks, I've for some reason want to get Lialis, which I should probably talk myself out of because they're lizard eaters, but I've got Heteronodia bouncing off the walls, so I figured, feed them now. But we'll see if I find them and actually keep them. We'll see what happens. But I'm just obsessed with that right now. They're awesome.
That's a cool idea. Yeah, I mean, talk about a cool thing.
Yeah,
for sure.
Are you just looking at the New Guinea ones, the Jacari or whatever? The
Jacari.
Yeah, those are. I've found those are probably the most available. But Reptoculture falls out the sky. Maybe I'll pick that up.
Yeah, right.
Oh no, we'll see.
Yeah, that might be worth feeding lizards too if you could find a Bertona. Yeah.
I'm also curious if we can get them on those iguana Reptilinks. Wonder if that would work or not.
Oh yeah. But it'd be much easier.
Right, if it's scent or motion or I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, those Binos geckos are cool though. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah, I haven't sold a single one though. I've been keeping them for years. No one wants to buy them, so whatever.
Yeah, that's too bad. They're
so
cool.
Even as feeders for those Pilbarensis too when I get them.
Yeah, I guess they're nocturnal, so they hide.
Yeah, how many people yell at me for that? But what are you gonna do?
They'll probably come out for that. Yeah, maybe there you go. That's how you get to see them.
They're definitely a prey type species. We saw them all over the place in South Australia. They were like, you'd just be hiking and Gahyra.
And Bianca's found many of them in the guts of even like Parentes. Like,
oh really?
I don't know what they're doing eating those little geckos, but a lot of the studies, Heteronodia galore in their stomachs. So just flipping over a log on accident, like, oh, I guess I'll pick that up.
Little popcorn.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which one won. They're either more Heteronotia or the Gahyra. I guess the Gahyra were several different species, but it seemed like wherever we went, there were several Gahyra and several Heteronotia. So. Cool geckos though. It's fun. I'm really enjoying keeping them.
They're easy. I stopped picking out the eggs because they just hatch. There's the hardiest eggs I've ever seen. Like, just leave them in the enclosure in the sand. They kind of those kick them out when they're running, but they'll still hatch on the surface of the substrate.
Nice. Yeah. Well,
they're simple.
See if I can get them to hatch out in the enclosure.
Yeah. Don't bother taking the eggs out. That's what I'd say.
I'll have to pick your brain a little bit, see how you're keeping them and see, that kind of thing. But, I'm enjoying them for sure. So I guess, based on your cool trips, we wanted to get you on here and talk about, herping and kind of photography. You take some really great shots. And so wanted to kind of pick your brain. So today we're going to be discussing kind of the pros and cons, or the, should you, shouldn't you, pose them in a naturalistic setting, or should you just take the photos as found, or kind of setting up animals and the pros and cons to that? So that sound like a reasonable topic?
Sure.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and flip the coin between Rob and I to see who gets to fight you tonight. So go ahead and call it, Rob.
Heads.
It is tails. I think, you came in a little hot today. I think you're in a fighting mood. So, and you're also a very, how shall we put this? Dedicated photographer. We usually, leave Rob on the side of the road with the snake and go drive some more and come back. So I think you'd be a good one to talk about this topic. So I'll let you, fight with Matt tonight.
Okay. Fair enough.
All right. And then, Matt, you want to call it for which side you want to take?
Tails.
It is tails. So you get to choose which side you want to defend. So to pose or not to pose?
I'll go
that is
posing.
the question. Okay. You'll pose them. All right. Well, and as the winner of the coin toss, you can decide if Rob goes first or if you want to go first.
I'll hear what Rob has to say.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, so this circumstance, right, gives me the opportunity to kick off with the diatribe from that I was started to go into last week. I don't remember if it was before the episode or not or whatever. Yeah. But a couple weeks ago, to find my Lifer Eastern Diamondback rattlesnake, we'd gone to an island off the west coast of Florida, which, in winter, right, the thought being that we're probably going to get, especially in those insular habitats, you're going to get, especially in juveniles, there really probably isn't the thermal mass on an island to allow them to cool in the same way that you would get, and recognizing that all of Florida, right, we're not talking about a great level of depth of substrate, but in terms of just the surface mass that we're talking about, I think on those in the island or coastal populations, it's that much less, so that absent being large adults, they're probably not really fully estivating over the winter, and especially come January and February, those animals probably look worse for wear. And so that comes from two different things, right? I think basically they're getting their water. There isn't a ton of fresh water in those locations. So we're getting it from dew. But if we're talking, it's one thing if we say, okay, below 68, right, Peter net chest, so that an animal can be out and then they're below the dew point, dew will form on them and all their surrounds and all this stuff. That's one way, but if it's 45 or 50 degrees, an animal probably doesn't want that dew effect to then cool its core temperature, right, in the way that we would get at those temperatures. So it's one thing to do it when it's August or September and we're talking a nighttime low of 65. It's a whole nother if we're talking 45. The other part of it, right, they're getting it from prey, but based on the prey that I'm seeing, they're probably not getting, with the cloud cover that happens there and not being at elevation, they're not getting the diurnal, daytime highs, especially the spot basking daytime highs that would allow them to eat the food that they would see, right? So in juveniles, they're going to be out basking, trying to survive. But come January and February, half the ones on a naturalist look worse for wear. And certainly the one that we saw looked worse for wear. The question is, so you take this photo, right, and you can, Owen, I love Owen. Owen took terrible photos of this animal, and it looked terrible. It made it look far worse than the condition even was, right? Whereas my photo, I think I was pretty happy with that picture, and I think it both illustrated the condition, but without being like, oh my God, is it like a coach whip that we saw in West Texas, where, well, that was the one coach whip in my life that it was easy enough to walk up on because, I mean, heck, the thing was, probably would be dead the next day or whatever, right? That wasn't the case with this animal. Instead, to me, right, so I get all this sort of feedback, especially off Owen's photos of like, yeah, no wonder you could find the thing because it was going to die tomorrow. That wasn't the case with this. Like, it was certainly super responsive and definitely, it's totally calm, never an indication that it would try and strike. Maybe it gave a single rattle, all this stuff. But the point is that being a juvenile in that state, instead it was showing itself as being the most awesome representative of how they can survive in those conditions, right? This is an animal being tried. It will survive. This is just what that population has to go through, what they have to undergo, right? And so I'm getting this feedback saying, oh, well, you found the thing that was going to die or whatever. And while I admit, right, that there's a part of your brain looks at it and says, I want to have the beautiful animal that everyone will think is beautiful, taken in the most beautiful frame and all this stuff. This isn't a conversation you want to have. But as I'm sitting there in the airport, because I had to take Owen 5 or 6 hours before I'd gone, so I had plenty of time to think on this issue. I was like, I was thrilled. As I thought it through, I was thrilled with the animal that I got because it exemplified the strength and resilience of that animal in that population and what they have to go through, despite not being sort of the picture perfect, what anyone who just happened to scroll through it on Instagram or see on the website or whatever would say, oh, wow, that's amazing. Sort of the textbook image. Instead, as I thought about it, this is the textbook. This is them showing what they can be, what they can do, what they have to do to survive. This is the survivor that I want to be the photo, right? And if someone can't appreciate that subtlety, I don't know that that's really the audience I'm looking for. So that'll be my kickoff. Unfortunately, the way this lined up, it put me right into the thing. And here we go. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, so I was going to talk about the complete opposite audience that you just talked about. the entire reason I started investing in my time and money into photography was to show the haters the true beauty of these animals. And I feel you thought the best way to do that is to capture the most beautiful picture of them I can. That's the whole reason I got into photography, and the whole reason I'm trying to get better and better at it is so I can make them look as good as they can. That's why I mostly do white and black background stuff, because I want them to be the ultimate subject of that image. And for haters that say they're ugly and gross can see they're literal living pieces of art. I mean, their colors, their patterns, and all that. Nothing's hidden in a plain background, just that gorgeous animal. Then you can pose them and show their entire habitat too with a wide-angle lens, which I just tried to figure out on this last trip because I've never done that before. That's just now you can show how their gorgeous habitat and everything, plus them in it. Like, I don't know. I don't think there's any beating that. But yeah, what you said, if you're looking at us reptile nerds, what you're talking about is also good to see. Yeah, my explanation isn't as long-winded as yours because I don't know how to do that, but that's where I'll start.
I love it. You're far more concise. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
No, that's totally fair. And certainly all the sort of the macro imagery and sort of the highly focused, I certainly agree, that it is art, right? And they are exceptional and beautiful. And I would imagine that it is compelling for folks, right? That don't see the subtle distinctions or even sort of the reticulations in the parenti. When you got headshots of all the different hatchlings and as you're growing them up at the zoo and all this stuff, that like it truly is, they're all individually unique pieces of artwork. And I can certainly appreciate that point. And admittedly, right, I guess the other context, although this mostly happens in the my less preferred herping method, maybe, and Justin knows, maybe more effectual, I'll admit that, but, I love to hike up an animal as opposed to either road cruising or flipping garbage or flipping tin, whatever. That's just not my preference. Certainly, if the options are you can see an animal or not see it, fine, if that's what we have to do. But in terms of spending day after day working through this stuff, I mean, that was sort of the brutality of Florida in the fall, is that it's, oh, well, what do? You cruise dirt roads, and it's like, oh my gosh, man, after a couple days of that wears you. And I guess the point that I always come back to with that, right, is that it's like people who aren't interested in seeing animals, be it birds or reptiles or whatever, will go on a hike and just hike in this beautiful environment. Very few of them would spend, 20 hours over 2.5 or 3 days cruising, driving at 10 miles an hour on dirt roads, just over and over, right, to not see animals. So in the in the first context, if you don't see anything, well, you still got out to do things that other people, normal people, quote, go out and do just for the heck of it. The latter, you better be seeing stuff, or that's just brutal. So bringing it into this context, I guess the thing that it reminds me of, certainly if we're talking about flipping literal garbage that people didn't want to pay to take to the dump, and taking a photo in that and saying like, oh, they're under this recliner or whatever. Admittedly, that's certainly my own personal preference would be to pose that maybe 10 feet away in a more naturalistic setup, or in the road cruising example, take it off of the road and put it into whatever that habitat might look like. Even if it's just, 2 foot long dead grass, that's still preferable to the road shot to me. So I will certainly give you that point. I have no interest in defending that beyond, I suppose, saying being instructive, as I say, for the potential herpers out there, of saying like, I know Eric had made this comment the first time we went to Australia, that he kept looking in the buttress roots of trees, expecting snakes to be coiled neatly inside those buttress roots. And I guess that kind of gets at this dynamic, is that, well, in Australia, particularly where you're not supposed to be touching them, having the containment that's offered by either 2/3 or 3/4 by those buttress roots, that's often selected, but those photos don't necessarily represent where those animals were found.
Yeah, but it takes a little corralling to get them in there, doesn't it? You have to just let them crawl on their own and follow them. But no, I think about, kind of in regards to Matt's point with, you're probably seen Ross McGivens' photography.
Yeah, that dude's crazy. He probably has a 15 millimeter lens that he shoves in the face of the lappets as they're coming after him.
But I mean, his pictures are just fantastic. And I mean, I think to Rob's point too, is, if you're hiking for them, you're probably going to see them in more pristine habitat and get that opportunity to see, but I think, that seeing them on that stark white background, I always love those, was it DK books, the kids books that always have the animals on white backgrounds. I love those books for that reason, because it just shows off how cool they are. Yeah. So I think both of those first points are really important and good to think about for sure. Yeah. Well, got another point for us?
Me? I feel like, nobody wants to see snake on the road. I have some elapids on roads that I'm probably never going to post because that's the only picture I got of them, because wasn't going to mess around with those and have snake equipment or anything. And I'm not a crazy Aussie that just walks up and picks those things up. So, but
I think it depends.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And even if they're half in focus, you're doing pretty well. I know when on our NT trip, we had come upon a northern brown snake that was out on the road. And the funny thing of that to me, and Justin, you have much more experience, and Matt, maybe even you as well than I do, because for whatever reason, and maybe it's what we're being sort of less of a point of focus, or whether it's just random chance or whatever, the observation I had was that, and presumably death adders would be different, but in terms of brown snakes and mulgas and things, that brown snakes and black snakes, that pythons sit on the road, whereas the hot snakes are just like, you come up on them and they're not sticking around. Mm-hmm. And then if you follow them, then they'll kind of left charge and come back, and then they'll try and leave again. And if you keep following them, then they'll do it again and get a little bit closer. And it's sort of, that was the dance we did with the northern brown snake. So that, I mean, heck, if they're even half in focus, you're doing better than I did with that thing, because eventually it reached the point where it was like, oh, and I think we've probably pushed this as far as we can go, because it's coming closer and closer with its bluff charges. So,
yeah, our first king brown we came across, that thing was just going after me like crazy. I was like, oh, it sat still, then just lunge. Like, okay, I'll leave you alone, buddy.
They have the funnest charges for sure. Like,
it's crazy. It's fun. It definitely is fun. But
the last one, we saw one just like on our last day in South Australia, and it was a pretty cool night. So it was just at sunset, and it was cooling down pretty rapidly. And this giant, mulga king brown was on the road, and we were taking pictures of it while it was on the dirt road, and then it started crawling past me, and he was kind of not, he was moving kind of slow. It wasn't very warm. And so I just reached down and picked him up by the tail, and he didn't like thrash or try to bite or anything. He just kind of sat there, and I carried him over off the road and set him down. And then he did his mock strike thing. And it was pretty exciting. But yeah, it's,
and those are the
I don't know, once
Ross,
in a while.
the gibbon gets, because he's sitting there with his hand in front of its mouth, just looking away.
See, and I have a ultra zoom, so
yeah.
Although it doesn't work great for close up, I need to figure out how to use that thing for close up pictures of dangerous snakes. But yeah, my first snake in Australia was a death adder, and I was on this windy road up in the tablelands up near Cairns, and I was it was the first car I was driving in Australia, so I'm trying to get used to driving on the other side of the road. And then it was a stick shift, so I had to shift with my opposite hand, my left hand, and so I was trying to do like a 4-point turn on this narrow road, and there's trucks, blowing through there pretty scarily. And so I see this snake, and it hadn't been hit. It was crawling. And so I hurried and turned around, and luckily there was a pull off not far from where the snake was. So I parked the car and I run back, and I'm like, oh, it's a death adder. Whoa. And I just grabbed a stick off the side of the road and kind of shoot it off the road. And then it starts, flattening out and looking like a death adder. I didn't realize death adders weren't always fat, like flat snakes. They look like a normal snake when they're crawling.
Yeah. Death adders are way easier to deal with. Death adders, you can just mosey off the road a little bit yourself with a stick, and then they'll just sit there, and you can take some good shots of them.
Yeah, and they pose nicely too, because they're more defensive. Like, just kind of.
I think us being Americans are easier. They're like just sit like a viper, and they're a lot easier to gauge. The Lapids can just turn on you real fast.
For sure. But I think that's kind of a point that goes to Rob is, the danger of it. It's, unless you have the skill. I imagine you've probably worked with venomous snakes in your capacity as a zookeeper, but the captives in the zoo might be a little different animal than the ones in the hot sun.
Yeah, we have a king brown that's just nuts. Like, nobody likes pulling that guy. He backs up, goes forward, backs up, goes forward, like like hooking a very venomous limp noodle.
Yeah. So does it make you, I guess, respect them more in the wild, or does it give you confidence to handle them in the wild?
Probably gives me more confidence, but not without a hook. That's the problem. Is you can't take snake hooks to Australia as a foreigner, especially. You're like, I don't know what that's doing in my car. This is a rental.
Yeah, it was there when I got it.
Yeah.
We had our friends over there hook us up with some snake hooks. So, we didn't have to bring them with us, but that could be a pain. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So venomous, I mostly just let them do what they kind of like. Come on, I poke them with a stick, get them off the road at least, so they get run over. But that's all I did with those guys.
My first trip over was to the center of Australia, and we saw both a brown snake of some sort, but it was in the heat of the day, and it was like lightning. I mean, I didn't even get a good look at it. We saw it on the road, kind of crossing the road. We pulled over, jumped out of the car, ran, and it was just gone. Like, we couldn't see it or anything. And we thought, it's probably some kind of brown snake, but we couldn't ID it either. So it was, some random fast venomous elapid. But but then we saw a big mulga on the road, and it was just sitting there, and you'd kind of tap its tail and it would hood up, and I'm trying to get pictures, but it was the same pattern as the road, like the same texture and color and stuff.
Focus and stuff.
Yeah, you couldn't get a good focus. So all my pictures of it are blurry, but then it took off, just crawling away as fast as it could into the bush. And so then and then it was under some piles of debris. So, not getting the best picture under that either, but I guess, it was the experience that I always think of that, Secret Life of Walter Mitty, when the guy's got the snow leopard in his camera, and he doesn't take the picture, and he says, that one's just for me. Sometimes I think it's not bad just to take a look at the animal, not necessarily try to get the greatest picture of it.
Yeah, that's purpose. We have to get our hands on everything. It's kind of weird. We need to take a page out of the birder's book probably sometimes, or just look at it. Drive 500 miles, look at a bird, say, got it, mark it off on your book, and leave.
Right.
But I don't know. Yeah, we like catching stuff.
Yeah.
Which is a check in my side. Catch it. Make it look
good.
True.
Right?
Pose it.
Yeah.
Manipulate it.
But they also posed images, especially if they're in situ, not in situ, posed in situ, but it shows people that are trying to make their enclosures at home. Maybe they have that species. They can get a look at where this thing is just found, like 5 or 10 feet away, maybe if it was on the road or not. But gives everybody an idea that they want to make their enclosures naturalistic and look nice.
Well, you can have it unposed, and then you just wind up with the Where's Waldo pictures. I don't love those on Instagram where it's, oh, can you see the snake and the thing? And it's like, okay, well, you're looking at a full-size photo and saying, like, oh, you can clearly see that it's this, 5% of the picture. And it's like, dude, it goes down to 2.5 by 3 inches on my phone. So, no, I can't see it. But that doesn't mean that I couldn't see it if I was looking at what you're looking at. But
yep.
It's sort of the same thing, and even more of the natural environment because you can't even see the animal half the time.
Yeah.
Although the interesting thing to me too, going back to the diamondback thing, although I've seen it with carpets, anything that sort of has a banded, although in the diamondback pattern, right, it's the way that the diamonds sit is that when they're coiled, and you can really see it in that photo, and right, adamantius, the most distinctive feature is probably those pre and post ocular white stripes, right? Is those, just looking at that photo, as it's got its head rested upon its coiled body, it's not 100% perfect, but it's like 85% perfect. The line that runs from the one diamond into the facial pattern into the diamond on the other side of the curl. And I know if you're looking at, I've taken a picture of a Darwin carpet, here that a couple of years ago, and that's when I really noticed that all those bands essentially create singular lines into different directions on that coiled pattern. And it really spoke to me, either posed or unposed. I think in either way, what those photos can do, and certainly your photos do this, Matt, is that you can notice, okay, well, that's probably both. It's a camouflaging factor and it's a directional confusion for a potential predator, right? Where it's like having that banding pattern that oscillates in these different directions. You have no idea if you didn't have a focal point on the eye, where even is the head? Where is that thing going? What's its potential direction of escape or whatever? And either posed or unposed, I think looking at photos with that sort of critical eye of saying, what is this telling me? Wow, it was like, oh, I see why they have those really vibrant pre and post ocular stripes. It just makes a line of continuity to the diamond patterns. And why do they sit like that? Well, it's because if they're sitting with the head rested on it, it creates that illusion.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought of that. That's pretty cool. And I imagine that would differ if they're in a cryptic, or a kind of resting state, like you saw that
elevated, right, with the body elevated, or if it's
And if you would have hooked it out and posed it, it might you might have missed that. That would be maybe different if it's up in its defensive pose or in that S shape or whatever. So, no, that's a good point. Yeah. What's your favorite photo you've taken, Matt? What has been your favorite thing to photograph, and what's been your most challenging thing to photograph, other than the elapids you've already talked about?
Man, I don't know. That Moloch, full body was probably it's up there. I love that picture. Plus, it's an animal that can't see anywhere else, and wasn't sure if I was going to find one.
Yeah,
found 2. So
that's cool. Were those both kind of around Uluru, or were they Alice area? Where'd you find them all?
The first one was on the worst road I've ever been on in my entire life, because Google told me it was going to be paved all the way, or we thought it was going to be paved. That was Route 6 going towards Watarka, or Kings Canyon. So it's a shortcut from Alice Springs there. And apparently, once you can't drop your pin anymore on Google, it becomes unpaved and just a terrible road for another 150 kilometers. So if you're gonna go Alice to Kings Canyon, go to the
south,
the long way.
Yeah,
the long highway. You'll get there faster.
We drove that road, and it wasn't. Maybe it just been graded or something, but it was pretty smooth.
The washboards were the smoothest part of that road for when we were on it.
Really? Oh, that's rough. Yeah.
But that was our little consolation prize. Was our first Moloch was on the road.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
And then the other one was by Uluru. Yeah. There's a little place where we stayed, which is a little natural like circle thing, and then there's a bunch of reptiles have been found in there, and that's where that one was. One super early morning, like before sunrise, was out there. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
did you get any shots with Uluru in the background with the Moloch?
No, Uluru was too far away for that.
Okay, yeah,
that was in town where we were staying. So I wish I did, but
yeah,
the only Uluru shots I got were baby sand monitor and the gill and eye.
Okay, that gill and eye shot was cool.
yeah. I have an in situ picture of that one. It was just out of its tree hollow, but then that obviously the Uluru in the background is a post picture.
yeah.
But cool. Finding it was exactly how everybody describes a gill and eye would be. Live in tree hollows, Mulga tree hollow. It just came out right when the sun came out, so its tail was still in the hollow. I mean, it was a super cool sight to see, and it was our last day to see them.
Yeah,
so we actually scoped that place out the day before after it had gotten scorching hot. So I still wanted to see one, hadn't found one yet, and there's a path from Uluru to like another area, like a shopping area, and it was just full of trees. I think they're acacia trees with just bark everywhere off of them. I was like, there's gotta be gill and eye here somewhere. So like we'll come back on our last day and search again, and we found one in there. Sure enough, there was a gill and eye, just like I had thought there would be. So
that's awesome.
Super cool find. Gill and eye have a special place in my heart. First monitor I bred, and since I laid eyes on him in Daniel Bennett's book, I was like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. So now I gotta experience it in the wild. That's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, they're pretty bold. Like they
at least just let me walk up and grab it.
Yeah.
Or better or worse for that thing, but I put it back in its hole when I was done. But yeah, that's another with these posing pictures, you gotta respect that animal's time and stress. So it's like get your picture and leave it alone.
Yeah, that might.
I think some people can, take, especially if you're in huge groups. I don't like that at all. It's like I'm the only. It was me and one other person, like Sierra, but she doesn't take pictures, so just she's my handler. While I take the pictures. So I just take some shots. If I get the money shot or not, whatever. The animal's stress level is more important than my picture. So experiencing it for me is the important part. But I do like showing it off if I can.
We were talking about, I think maybe last week, I can't remember if it was on the podcast or not, but I saw when I was with my wife in Western Australia, we saw Cauda lineatus, the striped tail monitor, on the base of a tree just in the morning coming out to bask, and it was one of those perfect just there it is, that's exactly where I'd expect it to be. And instead of trying to get a picture of it first, I went for the grab first, and of course it disappeared and I never saw it again. So but I could, Heidi could vouch that it was there. I wasn't crazy, that I actually saw it. But that was kind of the bummer.
I've been there a couple times too. Like, I should take that picture.
Should have taken a picture. So
like
sometimes those in situ, you want to take the natural shot at least so you have some kind of voucher,
like the second Gliopalma we saw. Like I didn't have the right lens on my camera. Like, stay there, buddy. And I was like slowly changing my lens, and as soon as I got the zoom lens on, he's like, nope.
Oh yeah, that's.
I was like, I should have just taken a picture with the shorter lens.
Some of those.
We chased them around a bit, but those things they're not gonna stay around for nothing. So I got a half of a shot, kind of. That's a decent, and then a video of him running in under a rock. So got something to prove he was there.
Yeah, that's awesome. But, I guess sometimes you don't have a choice whether you pose or not, especially with like a speedy monitor, like a black palmed monitor. They're so cool though. That must have been a very cool.
Believe it. Find. It was 10 feet away from the Mertens too.
Really,
it was crazy. Yeah, we saw the Mertens. And I just saw the head of the Mertens. That's why I wanted to go back the second day, because I want to see if that Mertens would still be there, see if I can see something better. So the Mertens was like had his head out of the water and a bunch of moss. I was like, awesome. And I took a video of it, a picture, and then disappeared in the water. Like, huh, well, that was cool. And I walked up the path, and then a little lizard zoomed by. I was like, what the hell? And then it stopped and looked at me. I was like, oh my God, it's a glibopalma. And then it was, one of the calm ones that went up to in the rocky area a little bit, and it sat on a boulder. Let me shove a GoPro in its face, and then I got some pictures, and it slowly walked off, just like my video showed. Like that.
That's so cool.
Was crazy.
That's a rare occurrence.
Yeah. And then, went back, and the next day, Mertens again was back where it was the first day. It wasn't when we went to the falls, so we just continued to the falls, and I'd hopped in just because, why not? It's hot. And then, on our way back, I checked the spot again. I just saw it go into the water and slide into the water, and then sat there for an hour watching it. I just surface, watch it, look at me again a little bit, and then I shove a camera in its face. Like, nope, and go back down. But for like an hour, we were just watching that thing do its thing, which I always knew seeing Mertens in the wild would be one of the most entertaining lizards probably ever, just because of the habitat, most gorgeous habitat I've ever seen. Super cool little lizard otters. Like, I've worked with them at the zoo a little bit, but I don't know. After seeing them and do that, I don't think I could never keep a Mertens. There's no way I could provide that for a lizard.
Yeah, so. That's I think if I had to trade place with an animal, it'd probably be either Pilbarensis, the Pilbar rock monitors out near Python Pool, or the Hammersliensis in Dale's Gorge. I mean, just such beautiful place to live, and
it was
looks like a lot of fun they're having, crawling around on the rocks. And
that thing didn't look like it had a care in the world other than me and my GoPro.
Was that trail you saw those two on, was it fairly well trafficked? I mean, was this glebo probably used to people, or
no? I think it's one of the most common places, but we were there before everybody. I mean, we would wake up before sunset, get there right as the sun hit the rocks, so nobody was out there yet until we were well on our way back.
We had a similar situation with the Pilbarensis in WA, where we got there just right as the sun was rising, and got to see them come out and start their basking, and just kind of crawl around before they're too wary or too heated up, or too fast.
Basically
like
for
the
this
perfect time to observe monitors.
Yeah, for this entire trip, we basically just made ourselves crepuscular. I mean, we'd wake up before the sun rose, get out there, get on a trail, try to find some lizards as the sun's heating everything up, then get back to our hotel right at the peak of 45 degrees Celsius. Take a couple hour nap, then get out there once the sun sets and find some nocturnal stuff. So it was many days of maybe 2-3 hours of just sleep when we can, eat when we can.
I think that's one of my favorite, like on backpacking trips or herping trips, when you can just kind of curl up in a canyon where it's a little cooler and just kind of wait out the heat of the day, and in the cool shade in a deep canyon next to water or something. That's one of my ideal places to take a nap. Sleeping on slick rock or something. But
Did you guys stay in Yellow Water, or did you stay at the Crocodile?
Crocodile.
Yeah. How was that? Yeah, we stayed at the other one.
I mean, it's cool. We weren't there very much, but it's cool hotel.
Further away. That was what I was thinking. But I hear you.
Yeah, it is further away. But
although it is where we got Eric's phone back. So there you go. That's where the German with the phone was.
That led to the Owen Pelly.
That led to the Owen Pelly. So I guess I do have some affinity for the Beyond. Yeah, it looks really cool. Especially aerial shots. Yeah.
If Eric's
phone staying in its thigh.
If Eric's phone goes missing on this next trip, I may or may not have lost it, so we have to go back somewhere. That's funny. I'm looking forward to getting back to Kakadu. It's been a long time.
And it sounds like you didn't really do it didn't give it the time that you
didn't do it justice.
We will this time.
Basically a full day, So I'm we'll hopefully be looking to get some notes from you here with the planning of the trip. But yeah, you got some cool spots. What was your favorite location to photograph stuff on your trip?
Yeah, McGook Falls, where the Mertens and the Lipo were. Yeah. That was. Yeah, I've been to Honduras, Western Australia, Northern Australia, or Northern Territory. I think that was probably the best habitat I've ever seen.
Really?
Just the smooth rocks, the clear water, the palms and eucalyptus trees everywhere, and then a Merton sitting on a rock in the middle of the stream.
That's cool. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to beat Carragini. I just love that place. I could
it was cool too, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to go to McGook Falls and compare and contrast. Yeah, that's awesome. I did love that area around Uluru too. We actually camped in the parking lot of the Olgas.
Yeah, you broke the law.
Yeah, we did. But we didn't get caught, and it was raining. So, and I was mad because we'd only seen DOR Molochs, and we saw a DOR Western Blue Tongue and a DOR Centralian Blue Tongue, and that's all I've seen of the two blue tongue species. Luckily, I've seen a couple.
Yeah, we didn't even see DOR blue tongues. I was upset about. I was hoping for both of those, but didn't even see one dead.
It's a good spot to see both species, but
I heard multis are supposed to be running all over the place down there, but I didn't see a single one.
I've only seen them just shortly after they've gone on the road and gotten hit. It's driving me nuts. I need to see a live one of either species. This last trip, it wasn't on the road even. It was a DOR underneath a piece of tin of a Western blue tongue in South Australia. I'm like, come on, what is the deal? I cannot see a live occipitalis or multifasciata. But
you represent a real threat to their continued existence, I guess.
Yes, I don't know. Maybe I should stop looking for them then. Then I'll find them alive and healthy and happy. But it's cool. There's just so many cool places over in Australia.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to beat that orange sand too, though, in the red center. Like that is a color you don't see very often.
Yeah, that was another
landscape.
Another one where we were just kind of driving between. I think we were driving somewhere out there, and there was just the sand was just too inviting, and I'm like. I was with my dad, and we're like, let's just pull over and walk around in the sand. My dad was photographing some bullet ants, and he didn't notice one that came up and bit him on the toe, and so he was kind of limping the rest of the trip. That thing, like, it took a couple weeks to heal that bullet ant bite.
Yeah.
So, but I went kind of looking for reptiles, of course, and there was a Burton's legless lizard that was cruising around that was really it had some kind of like reddish in its pattern because it was on the red sand, cool. I guess, but it was really pretty. And then I saw two monitors. They were like doing something, like either combating or mating or something. And I interrupted them. And one took off this way and the other took off this way. And I'm running with my camera trying to, get them to stop long enough to take a picture. And the one I was chasing dove under the spinifex and just disappeared. And I'm like digging through the sand trying to find it. But it was a pair of Aremius, the rusty desert monitor. And so I didn't get a picture of it. But
I was looking for those too. They're supposed to be found in that little habitat area I was talking about by our hotel. But
okay,
maybe I saw a glimpse of one. I just didn't know because I saw lots of glimpses of something.
Right.
What was that? I don't know. It's gone now. But that's the way that goes.
Yeah.
And then there's also Levicinus there. I looked every night for those. Didn't see one. Unfortunately.
Yeah. I didn't see one. I did see a Levis on the road out of Uluru, and it was
we found
rained
several Levis.
What was that? You saw a couple of those out there?
Yeah, we saw a nice red one and then a normal purpley one. But
cool.
Yep.
Yeah, we saw one scraggly little male that was venturing out during the rain. But I guess the rains meant we got to see, waterfalls off of Uluru, which was kind of cool. And
we
misty.
did too, but I was depressed because every night it rained. And then I had an Astro tour scheduled. I got canceled because of cloud cover. I was like, I watched hours of YouTube videos trying to figure out how to take astrophotography because I wanted to do it over Uluru. For nothing.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. The best laid plans, right? When you're planning a trip months in advance, it's really hard to.
I was getting super depressed that whole week because I was like, nothing's gonna be out. It's too cold, too rainy. Like, what is happening? The entire time we were there, and then the next week looked perfect. But saw some stuff. Got Moloch. Yeah, all sorts of stuff. So.
We were in Alice area. We were sleeping in one of the canyons again. You know, a local told us, the signs say don't do it, but nobody ever checks. So we did it. But then the canyon, it was Simpson's Gap that was just kind of out of Alice just a bit, and we pretty much stayed there. I think 3 or 4 nights in a row, and then. The week after I got back, somebody posted a picture of a parenti that was living in Simpson's Gap, like just alongside the road in some rock outcrop. And I'm like, we pass that rock outcrop every day, and I saw no parentis.
The parenti we saw was on top of what's that called? Stanley Chasm. It's the Aboriginal owned section of it. Like their little consolation prize for the people take over their cool area. But so we went and saw the chasm, and then there was this little trail that went literally straight up the mountain. It's like experienced hikers only. We're like, we're experienced enough. And we got all the way up there just out of breath, winded. We're like, okay, that was enough of that, because the trail just kept going. But like, okay, well, we can head down. And on our way down, Sierra actually slipped. I was like, you good? I turned around to look at her. She's like, yep. And I looked down. Just under the cycad was this half-grown juvenile parenti. I was like, oh my God, a parenti. Just in the shade of a, super cool plant.
That's awesome.
Just see a parenti here and look right, and you're looking all over Alice Springs, basically, just up on a mountain. That was
very cool.
Super cool.
Yeah. Did it pose for you pretty well, or?
It stayed around. Like, it didn't appreciate our presence, but it was pretty bold about it. Just, did the slow monitor walks and look at you every couple steps and then stop. And I got some good shots of him and some
That's
good
very
videos.
cool. Yeah. Did he go for your white background, or?
Only did that for the Moloch.
Put this poster board behind you.
I did I brought a piece of poster board just for a Moloch in case we found one.
That's cool.
And I used it because it's awesome. Then we also saw probably yearling parenti also by Catajuda, which I tried to catch that because I wanted to get a Catajuda parenti picture, but he darted away. All I got was a shot of him in the grasses, which that was cool. That's cool. It's a 2-shot. His pattern blends in with, see a black and white lizard. You're like, what's that doing in orange sand? But then you see him in that bushel of grass. Barely can see him. So they know what they're doing. They figured it out. Whether we do or not, they know what they're doing.
Right. Are the juveniles in Central Australia, are they a little more brightly patterned, like more black and white, and they kind of they look out as they get older?
Oh, I found we saw one in Western Australia too, but I don't see they were maybe a little bit more patterned. I think the ones we saw in Central Australia than the one I saw in Western Australia. I feel like the Western Australia one had more black and then bolder ocelli, and these were like kind of modeled throughout their whole body.
Yeah, I like that modeled look. They're just so cool. Such cool lizards. I'm really hoping to see. I'm going to Central Australia in 2025. Of course, you're invited to the big birthday bash, my 50th out there. I don't think anybody's going to come, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't think my budget's going to make it yet. I'm a zookeeper budget. Can't go to Australia every year.
Well, and you were just there, so you'll probably have
my bank account got wiped. So.
But I'm looking forward to herping Central Australia.
No, I'd go back in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Did you get to see Amy?
Yep, saw 2 Amy. I think they're both in West McDonald. I think. Yeah.
Makes sense. That's cool. That's another one that's high on my list that I haven't gotten to see yet. So.
A male and a female,
Nice. Yeah. Was it?
Yeah. So the first one we saw was there's like one little literally 10-kilometer strip where you can find, I guess, where I think the desert death adders are. Apparently, there's one strip of road where they're always at. So we tried that one time, but we only did it one night because it takes so long to get there. It's all the way at the other end of West McDonald from where we were staying. So it took us, technically 2.5 hours to get there, but we're road cruising, so it took us about 4 hours to get there. And then didn't see one, so we just turned around, came back, and on our way back is when we found the AMEA. So like 3:30 in the morning is when that guy was out. So that made it worth it, I guess. Not getting back to our hotel till 5. And then getting back out at 7:30. But hey, got AMEA, my favorite gecko.
Yeah.
So sometimes,
yeah, that's awesome.
One little victory is all that it takes. So, and then the other one was a surprise, just random night. So
that's cool. Yeah. Did it run fast? I've heard they kind of maybe run
faster than I wanted it to. It didn't want me to take pictures of it either. So I only got like maybe 2 pictures of it, just because I was like, okay, if you don't want to do it, then we don't have to.
Yeah.
So
yeah. That's cool. Another dream species to see.
Oh yeah, I was over the moon. Like, that's a big gecko. Oh my God, his name Yay.
That's cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just like a white blob in your headlights is what it is. Huge little white blob on the road.
Yeah. Nice. Any other cool experiences from the trip that just stand out?
The Scalaris was cool just because of where we found it. You hear stories of monitor lizards utilizing termite mounds, and this one was doing just that. It was on a termite mound basking when we drove by, and we stopped. And when it saw us, it had dug out a through and through hole in this termite mound. It just used that as a refuse. So that was super cool to see that. And Scalaris was a species that wasn't even on my list to even think about finding. So, and that was like our first lizard we saw. That was we went straight into the Lost City, because that's where everybody told me where Glioblema were supposed to be, but I didn't see any of that. So terrible road there too. Apparently on our loan agreement for that car, we weren't supposed to drive on that road, which I didn't know until we were halfway down it. And Sierra said, "We're not supposed to be on this road." Well,
yeah,
Lost City was supposed to be cool. We're going. So yeah, that was
cool.
That
was one that we had avoided on the first one because of that being too contractually abiding or whatever. But no, all good. I think we'll have to on the return. We'll definitely make it a point for sure.
No, you'll see people have made their own. They actually, there's a track off the road that people drove on because that's smoother. So you do that, and then you hit like a ditch where you can't, so you have to go back on for a little bit and then go back off. Like that's what we did. It was like, oh, this is way easier. Otherwise, you're bouncing around the whole time. Like, can't even keep your phone charger in for your maps it bounces right out the USB port. So that was super annoying. Like, come on, I don't want to know where we're going. But
the one that killed me, we were driving through Carragini on one of the dirt roads, and then I found out after we'd driven this long dirt road, there was a paved road that paralleled it, and we could have driven that instead. I'm like, dang it!
Rough.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was a bad road too. Those
we tried useless loop for maybe 10 kilometers. Or like, we can't. We're not doing this.
Yeah, we were driving.
My bones have
very
been
slow,
rattling ever since.
Right.
But, Steve said, "Yeah, go useless loop. There's cool stuff there." Okay. Oh my God, Steve, we're not. No, thank you.
I don't remember it being that bad, but
I don't know. You guys were in a little car, but I don't know.
It must have been okay. But Carragini Road was horrible in that car. I'm surprised we survived that. That's like as far the car survived it, but
we had a huge Toyota 4Runner, and that was rough on that.
Yeah. In South Australia, there was a lot of dirt road driving, and at one point I noticed that there was dust just filling in the car, like it was just coming in from somewhere. I'm like, what is happening? Where is this dust coming from? It was terrible. And after the trip, it was just covered, like inside. It was like a 1/4-inch thick dust layer over everything. It was terrible. The things we do, right, to get to cool places.
Yeah. an adventure every time. Worth it though.
Yeah, the worst thing that happened was a bird flew into the car, like they were chasing each other. These apostle birds, they're really cool, weird looking birds, but they were chasing each other, and one just headlong into our bumper and knocked out the sensor of the like the front sensor. And so, you know, it's always like, sensor is out, you know, every 5 minutes it would flash some warning. I'm like, gosh dang it. And it happened like on the second day of the trip. I'm like, come on. I had to drive a week with that flashing at me. That was annoying. But
yeah, that road to Kings Canyon was scary. Like every 10 feet there's just flat tires on the side of the road, so my little butthole was clenched for about 8 hours. Just like, don't pop a tire, don't pop a tire.
Right.
Get us through this. And then we'd get teased because every time there's 2 intersections and they'd pave it right where the intersection was. So we'd hit the pavement like we did it. And we sit there like, all right, 2-wheel drive, we made it. And then you round a corner, it's back to the terrible road.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
No. Sometimes it's hard to figure out how passable a road is, you know.
Yeah. Google says 2.5 hours. You drop a pin, like, yep, it's paved. And then nope.
Nope, it's not.
8 hours and not paved.
Yeah. That can makes for some interesting situations. But, all right. Any other points that you've got in regards to photographing herps? I thought of one kind of on Rob's side is legality. You know, if you're not allowed to manipulate snakes or reptiles in certain regions. Now, obviously, that's kind of the rule in some parts of Australia, but I see most Australians breaking that rule, so I don't feel too bad about it. But I guess technically, if you know a ranger caught you doing something like that, then you could get in trouble. But
or heck, even if you go to our PA New Jersey trip, right? If we had gone one step further and it's like looking through our photos or whatever, then a wanker shot or, you know, I mean, we might have taken some other trips last year where certain things might not have looked great, like if they'd gone back in the camera roll or whatever. So, yeah, I think there's something to that, but I don't know. I think there's an argument for both sides, right? And particularly, I do find your argument compelling in terms of a beautifully situated animal in situ, meaning like posed but in situ. I think is probably sort of my favorite photo to look at, as you say, because it's instructive relative to those conditions and things. And, you know, at the same time, an unposed photo, if you can genuinely come upon it without disturbing it or whatever, you know, both as a voucher shot and as this is it in its natural state, as opposed to the death adder that's in its defensive posture and all this. I think both those things have a ton of value, although, you know, that being said, death adders that are in that defensive posture, man, they look really pretty. So I totally understand that as a compelling, you know, art argument as well.
Yeah, I like both too, but I will say I get more jealous of nice post pictures than just a snapshot of the animal where it was. But like, man, I want to be able to do that.
Well, and
some of the time too, right? Yeah. So what I was going to sort of reminds me of you mentioned the astrophotography. You mentioned, you know, we're talking about stuff with this post. I think the part that is a truth that's not really out there is, you know, I think so the question always becomes, if you can look at a photo, right, and if the whole thing is in focus and all looks awesome, then that's art. That's not a singular photo. That is 10 images, 20 images, 30 images that are made together to make a beautiful piece of art that is both true to the animal in the sense of being, this is an animal that exists in the world, right, and in their habitat or whatever. But that isn't, I shouldn't be looking at that saying, why can't I recreate that photo with my camera? Well, you probably almost certainly have a more expensive camera than I do, but also that's not a singular photo that could be taken where both the you know, stars that are however many, you know, tens of thousands of miles away are in focus, and this animal that's 6 inches in front of the camera is in focus. That doesn't exist. That's not a thing. That's a beautiful piece of art to look at, and even can be true to the species. But that's, to me, there is some misrepresentation to the extent that someone who isn't aware of that will take that in as like, why can't I make that out with my $200 camera or whatever, right? There's a little bit of falsity to that to me.
Yeah, was kind of what I was going to say. There's some that are like neon that you're like, there's no way that animal looks like that. It's, but I mean, it's fun to look at them, and, it might kind of show the ultimate of what they could look like.
Ultimate potential. it was maxed out. Yeah, I don't even mean so much that. It's just everything being, oh, wow, this beautiful landscape, all of which is in focus, and the stars are in focus, and the animal that's 6 inches away is in focus, and it's like, but it doesn't look flat. That's not one photo. That's 10 photos, 15 images, photos, whatever stacked, it is. Yeah. Which is cool. Yeah, I'm not against that. I guess to the extent that I do kind of think it's a little morally questionable, it's just if it's being presented as like, yeah, well, I mean, I guess you just can't make a photo look like this. You're just not as good as me. And that's not saying that Ross says that, but to the extent that you see some of that became a Herper Bro thing for a bit there, where it's probably, frankly, too much work for the Herper Bros for the most part. More, the more negativity around. Well, I've only seen 45 alternates tonight, so it's fine. Whatever. I guess I could take a picture of the last one too, but no, that's gratuitous on my part. I apologize.
Well, any other parting thoughts? Things that have come to mind that you haven't gotten a chance to get out there?
Nope. Sometimes I look at these, like the Glivopalma pictures I took, like, man, if only I had that in my hands and I could pose it.
Right.
The images I could have made for that.
Yeah.
But no, I got some good natural pictures of it. But
yeah.
Well, the shots you got were amazing.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could have done amazing things, but heck, and I wonder at some point, right, as Justin, you had mentioned, right, Walter Mitty quote or, idea of like, if you're doing that, to what extent are you diminishing your own experience of being with that animal, right? And that's something I struggle with myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you gotta struggle. You gotta balance that. Like, who cares if you didn't get the picture, you just experience like this animal you might never see again in your life. So
yeah.
You
and I guess on the flip side of that too is, even if it's a crappy photo, you can look back and recall the experience. It kind of brings those feelings, brings that excitement back, more so than if you're just looking through Facebook or Instagram and you see it, if you didn't experience it. But if you like, kind of, I guess, piggybacking on last week's discussion of, herping solo versus herping with a group, when you're with a group of friends and you've all had that same experience, and, you can see even the crappiest picture from that day and go, that was a good experience. That was, bring those feelings up to the surface.
No, I have several crappy pictures of lizards that are like, I want to catalog it at least, like snap, snap, snap.
Yep.
If it's like darting away from me, like, I want to know, look what you are later at least.
Exactly.
Say that I saw you. But like Pinotas I'm sure I saw probably 15 different Pinota species. So I picture those because they're there and gone, like under a rock. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, a black and white striped skink, I'll mark that down, see what that was.
Yep. It helps
and
a
even
lot
that,
too.
It turns out, the species differentiation, you need to look at the toe pads on the rear feet or whatever, and it's like, okay.
That's not
it's like those fat-tailed Diplodactylus. I didn't know there's 3 different species that look the same. So like,
I
thought this was conspiculatus. It's the other one. It's like, its tail tip is like 0.5 millimeter longer. Like, okay.
Bumpy
you got to bring the ruler and the coin and all. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I just took a picture of its face.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny. Well, I think the main thing is get out and herp and find some cool stuff to photograph, whether you pose it or whether you take in situ or whether you take a crappy iPhone shot like me, because I've given up. I guess I look at everybody else's pictures and I go, man, I don't have the patience and it doesn't stick in my brain for some reason, these photography skills. My dad has them, my brother has them, but it skipped me for some reason. So I let people like you and Rob take these professional photos with their nice cameras, and I just get down there with my iPhone, take a couple of shots, and sometimes they turn out all right. I mean, these phones we have are almost as
crazy.
Almost better than the best cameras we had 10, 20 years ago,
All my habitat shots and Ulu shots are on my iPhone, and they're incredible.
Yeah. Sometimes I get a shot on my iPhone, I'm like, it's better than the shot that I took with my nice camera. So
I'm like 10 years into trying to figure out for photography, and I still don't know what I'm doing. So
yeah, it's definitely
getting better by the day, but
some of that camera functionality, like it's almost you're being lost in a sea of choice and the ability to make all these variants, whereas the iPhone, it's not, you don't have that level of modularity, so that it's like just click the button, dude. You know, that sort of thing, as opposed to all these different settings that you can manipulate, and it's like, well, I don't need a fancier camera because I'm already confused by what I have, right? So there's already way beyond me in terms of what this thing could do that I can't even access. So I think there is something to be said for that.
Yeah. And I went with, I've gone on a few backpacking trips with my cousin, who's a semi-professional photographer. And when he's got a shot in mind, like you could be there for hours staring at the same thing. And he's just focused on this one shot, My dad was with him one time and he turned around and there was this beautiful sunset behind him. And he's like, oh, you might want to check. He's like, no, I'm good. I'm looking this way. So my dad turned around and took some shots, and they're beautiful pictures, but he wanted the other view and was waiting for his shot. And yeah, it's pretty intense, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's not me. I'm too impatient for that.
Yeah, it's also much easier and lighter to travel if you're not don't have camera gear on your back. So.
Right, it's in your pocket. You don't have the camera swinging around, hitting you in the chest when you're trying to climb a rock and throwing you off balance. And that's another reation.
Or the feelings going through your mind as you're smacking it into the room.
Exactly.
Oh, that expensive lens into the rock.
Yeah. The last trip to South Australia, there was an alpine blue tongue on the side of the road. And I'm like, stop. And I jump out of the car and my camera goes with me and hits the road. I'm like, no. Luckily it was okay. But yeah, it was like seeing my camera die before my eyes, but luckily it was saved. Well, cool discussion, and even cooler to think about the animals you're out there photographing and the regions that you're in. I just love, Australia, of course, and I think we share a lot of the same favorites there, Amy and Parentes, and
I will say, cool. Getting into reptiles, I was on your website too many times, like Australian addiction. What? Yeah. And then especially the geckos, like, these are the Asper? Are you kidding me? Lo and behold, I became friends with Steve, who had those Asper. So he bought Gil and I from me because he liked Gil
and
I.
Right. So. Yeah. Did he get the Kims from you too, or was that from somebody
No,
else?
He got those from Canadian Cold Blood, I think.
Oh, okay.
Brandon. Yeah. What's his nuts? Van
Aston. Austin. Yeah.
Yeah. Too many cool animals for sure. But yeah. Well, we appreciate you coming on. And
an epic trip, man.
Yeah, that's so cool.
For sure.
You guys saw some cool stuff for sure. Where can people find your photos and
Instagram at Tietgen for most of my reptile stuff, and then my at-home stuff is at Bloody Goannas.
Okay.
And Nephris, and now you're a Mastix, I guess.
Now, where did that name come from?
It's a play on words from when I had blood pythons and monitor lizards.
Okay.
I thought it was funny. Bloody Goanna. Now everybody thinks I'm from Australia or England.
Yeah.
Oh well.
You're just cursing at a glebo that's running away from you.
Stupid lizards. So I thought it was funny, so I just kept it.
Went with it. Nice.
Yep.
Right on. Well, any cool things you've seen over the last week or so in the news or herp related? That's cool. I got a couple books. I don't know if I talked about these on last time, but I got the Complete Guide to the Snakes of Southern Africa. That's pretty exciting. And it's kind of convincing me I need to go to South Africa at some point here. And then I got that Boas of the West Indies book. They're cool snakes. And I need to be able to hang with Rob in conversation. So maybe I'll have to read this book and learn something about those darn live bearers. I've always been so opposed, but I'm softening a little, I guess.
Your cutting egg agenda, it kind of meets. You get a little headbutting there, right?
There you go.
Was the South Africa book, is that out of the Dartha Lapis Snakes and Stogies book club, or they talked about so many African focused. Was that from that or no?
I'd gotten it before. Well, before I listened to it, I'm not sure if I got it before they recorded it, but yeah, I listened to that the other day. I'm like, oh, maybe I can't remember if they talked about it, but it's, it's a field guide. So it's just kind of the photos and talking about their natural history and stuff. But there's some pretty cool snakes in South Africa. And there's a new edition of the other kind of companion book. This is John Marius or Marius, whatever his name is.
And he's got
he's got one coming out of the reptiles of Southern Africa. So I think I'll pick that one up too, just because it's, I mean, the real interest I think I have in South Africa is the tortoises and the lizards, some of the, chameleons and stuff like that. And the flat lizards, some of those things would be cool to see out in the wild, but the tortoises are just incredible out there. And then, the cordylis. Cool stuff. So someday I'll make it over to South Africa. Too many places.
Right. What about you, Matt?
To see first.
Yeah. For what?
Any cool things to report?
The latest thing I thought was that eyelash viper breakdown, but I'm sure some people are probably upset about it.
Is that they split them into different species?
Several species, yeah.
Missed that.
So I'm sure a lot of people have hybrid eyelash vipers now, but
the interesting thing, right, is a lot of those are coming from places that don't really export or don't export in quantities. So I don't know. Certainly I had the same sort of thought process on the front end. On the back end, looking into it, I was like, Ecuador has been mostly closed to entirely closed for a really long time, and that's a couple, and I was kind of like, maybe it's not as bad as it seems. It's not just saying they're all have a monotype presentation, and so to the extent that we consider them super variable, that means they're all hybrid. It's not saying that. It's saying, just within these pockets or whatever that they've looked at. But the same sort of thought for sure.
That's cool.
In terms of things that are exciting to me, so one of them, Nipper pointed out, and then I saw on Facebook, I'm mostly off of it, save Messenger, but he highlighted, and then I saw that Mark had highlighted this as well, is that now on Amazon Prime, the first season of O'Shea's Big Adventure, in this case, the Americas version, so that whole 13 episodes, is available on Amazon Prime, at least in the U.S., for purchase for $21 or so, but you can download those, and maybe that's a good thing in the sense that maybe it's less likely to just randomly disappear than if you weren't paying for it as a download and extra and all that. So I've checked out a couple of those, remembering having seen them, particularly the Golden Lancehead one, it's fun seeing, Mark from, 25 years ago now and all this stuff and just sort of his presentation. And at the same time, you see the front end of reality TV where the producers maybe accurately are presenting like that Mark and his style of interactivity with the animals has his Brazilian hosts very concerned for his well-being and all these things and all this sort of stuff. So I don't know, that would be interesting. And I still got to finish out his second show when he'd come on with Nipper and Phil. But and the reason isn't because of lack of interest. It's because I want to be super zoned in and listening. And at the same time, it's a little trying, so I need to be in the right headspace. So I just haven't quite gotten there. But I have checked out the first couple episodes of those again, and both of them. It's like, I remember seeing this before: the Bushmaster and the Atlantic Coast Bushmaster and the Golden Lancehead. The other thing that goes further back is there was a So Much Pingle episode where he talked to Hans Brauer, who has been in Taiwan and then lived in Sarawak for a long time.
What's
and he had a
his
couple books.
Username? Didn't he have kind of a weird username?
I think it's in there. So it's HANS, and then it's BREUER.
Maybe I'm thinking.
And I think it's in there if you just search it in Instagram. It's basically like more or less like that. Not many posts, a half dozen, something like that. Okay. But the point is that he's written a couple books. One in 2012, mostly on field herping in Taiwan, which I ordered off of Abe Books. It was funny that the whole discourse around Schmitty getting the updated Klaus Dieter Schultz Old World Rat Snake, thinking that Abe Books was the seller or whatever, and Phil kind of going in on him about that. So that was pretty good. And the other, though, 2023 is on Amazon for $25 or something like that. So I got that, and that's the what is it? a greenhorn naturalist in Borneo. So yeah, I'm excited about both those books, and I really enjoyed that interview where Mike talked to him. I thought it was really compelling stuff, really long form for Mike's show and all that, and yeah, really good.
That's cool. I'll have to check that out. I like Mike's podcast. It's fun to any herping podcast is good in my book, I think.
And the funny thing about that, right, is either the episode before or after, I'd gotten a little bit behind on it. He talked to a handful of folks when in Peru, right? So they go on the trips and they're kind of talking through stuff. And there's an episode where he talks to 3 people in a singular episode. And one of them has started mixing in trips, I think a Canadian guy who'd herped in Ontario and then herped in the U.S. and then added Australia to it. But the funny thing is he was talking about, I believe it was taking a picture of a Moloch in front of Uluru. So he got the Moloch Uluru shot that reminded me from our conversation. So that was another great episode too. That's kind of 3 different people with different perspectives and all and experience and all that. But I thought that one was really good as well.
Nice. I'll have to check those out. Yeah, that's great stuff. Well, thanks again, Matt, for coming on, and appreciate your insights and the debate. That's been some really good topics brought up. So we appreciate NPR Radio and allowing us to have our podcast on their site and under their umbrella, and appreciate Eric and the good work he does, and Owen as well. And we'll catch you next week for another episode of Reptile Fight Club.